What I think about a lot now, which is going to be a bit counterintuitive, because the world's falling apart, right? In many different ways, and I work with a lot of that and a lot of people who work with that very directly. And at the same time, the thing that is holding it together and maybe holding us together, and it's not just me, there's many people talking about this, and I look at the, I think in times of, I don't know, crisis, or when you think, oh, this is impossible, and then I look at what my mentors are doing, and they're doing the same thing. And they're all talking about hope. And I'm not talking about toxic hope, like, it's all gonna be fine, it's just fine. Not that. What I mean is the belief, the unshakable belief that a better future is possible.
Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Exponential Show. Today, it is with great pleasure that I introduce our friend, Jenn Weidman, who is the CEO of Space Bangkok. Jenn, thanks for having us, and thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm happy that you're here. Before we get to our questions, there's something that I'd like to highlight, and we were discussing this off camera, is that we're 11 months into the Exponential Show, and this is our 18th episode, and it's the first time that my wife, Vidhu, she was also my co-founder, is visiting me, currently behind the camera, because Jenn happens to be one of her favorite people in the world. So Jenn, thank you for being a positive influence on our life.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. No pressure, right?
No pressure. Yeah, but just wanted to shout that out before we get to it. Now, Jenn, let's get to the first question, right? Which is something we ask all our guests: is what led you to the crazy idea of doing your own business, and what were the events and motivations and accidents that happened along the way to you being currently the CEO of Space Bangkok?
Yeah, it's crazy. Is a good word for it. Yeah, though I've been working in the past, so my experience is in peace building, and my education is in anthropology, cultural and applied anthropology. Right. So I had been working on a peace building program, and I had realized that a lot of the peace builders who were coming from around the world to increase their skills, we're also in places of transition. We're also dealing with things like burnout. We're also struggling to really do their work long term in a series of industries that, to date, have been set up in such a way that it's not very conducive for well-being. And I found that a lot of my work that I was doing with them was actually accompaniment to help them in their journey and figure out where they were going to go and what their next steps were. And so at some point I thought, I want to actually come out from that role and work more directly in resilience kind of work. And so Space Bangkok now is, we do facilitation, process facilitation. We work in peace building and resilience, leadership development, trauma-informed practice, all those sorts of things. And we use the accompaniment model a lot, the retreat models and all kinds of events and workshops and those sorts of things. So, but making that decision, so wanting to do that was a long time thing that I wanted to do. And then making that decision was absolutely terrifying. I came from the place of you don't leave a good paying job unless you have something else, you know, because we all have responsibilities, we have bills to pay, people we need to look after, and you just don't ever do that. So it was a leap for me. And it took a conversation with a friend and mentor who just kind of gave me that shove that I needed to just say, you know what, this is exactly what I need to do. And then I jumped. And here we are. Space Bangkok is 9 years old this year. So yeah, roller coaster the whole way. No idea what I was doing. Never been an entrepreneur before. Nobody in my family is an entrepreneur. Absolutely no clue. So you start from somewhere and then you go somewhere else.
Well, I'm glad you took that jump. But it's fascinating to know how you kind of had it in your heart to do something eventually, and then just sort of relying on your experience with these areas. I think it seemed like a natural fit. So now maybe diving deeper into what Space Bangkok does, and you mentioned accompaniments and retreats and workshops and trainings. So could you just walk us through what all of that entails and what impact it has on individuals, teams, and maybe even organizations.
Yeah, so we work with people, teams, organizations who are often feeling stuck somehow, whether that's strategy, planning, visioning, theory of change, these sorts of things, or whether that's, let's say, team conflict or lack of team cohesion, cohesion building, community building, team building, these things, whether that's struggles with well-being, all of that. So we're the ones that kind of go in when people are feeling stuck or they need someone to really facilitate a conversation, to really facilitate dialogue, to facilitate sharing, problem solving, all of these kinds of things. And what we see is the kinds of events and pieces of work that we do are diverse, very diverse. And the kinds of groups we work with are also very diverse, and the topics they're working on are very diverse. So the thing that holds it all together, I think, is one, facilitation. And two, everything we do has this underpinning of resilience and well-being. Even if we're just doing strategy planning, we're going to be asking those questions about, is this something achievable? How can we make sure that we're also looking after ourselves? And we're going to be facilitating in a way that does that as well. We use a lot of creativity. We use a lot of different kinds of things that aren't your standard business approaches. And what we see is a lot of transformation. So you asked about impact. So we'll see transformation in teams as we're working with them. We see transformation in individuals as we're working with them to be, let's say, having stronger relationships, more effective at their work, and living their lives with more well-being and resilience.
Interesting. And yeah, I mean, the problems that you mentioned, I think at some level, all organizations and teams are facing. So it's a very wide gamut of target, if I may call them customers. So it's interesting to know that you kind of solve a bunch of different problems. And you mentioned that those problems might be as unique as the people themselves. So it's interesting. But to maybe get into a better, well, at least for somebody like me from the outside looking in, can you maybe share an example without naming names of how what would be an example or frequently faced problem, if I may, that people come to you with, and how you have approached it in the past when it comes to helping them find their way out of that problem?
Sure, and I might give you a couple of different examples because what we do is a bit diverse, so I can touch on some different ones. There was an organization that I started to work with, and they were having a lot of trouble with team cohesion. They had very talented people on the team, but they just weren't working well together at all. So if you think about the norming, forming, storming, performing, that kind of thing, they were storming forever. And they never moved past storming. There was a lot of tension in the office, and they just weren't being as effective as they needed to be. And so I started to work with them, and we worked together for some years. Until both with the team as a whole and also with the leader. So one of the keys in this situation was that the leader came and said, I have a lot of experience. I've done a lot of this before, but what I normally do is not working here. First time working in Thailand. Why? And there was a multicultural office and lots of things going on. And she said, I know I need to change. So I said, okay, let's work with the team. Let's work with you and let's see what happens. And so throughout some years, we worked with the team. We built stronger cohesion. We addressed different issues that were going on in the office. There was actually one session we did, not the first session we did, of course, but where we just surfaced every pain point that they had and worked through every single one. It was a long day, but it was also very valuable because some things people didn't even know were happening. And then throughout that as well, I also worked with the leader. We did some one-on-one coaching and just helped her to refine what she was doing. She's a strong leader anyway. But what she was doing was also sometimes getting in the way. And so as a whole, the whole team went from, well, if I may say, rather a mess, to a very well-performing team that got a lot of things done and had a very successful change in their work that they were doing. So that's one kind. Another kind might be something like, well, we've done some of these a lot recently, and I'm about to go do another one. Working with groups that are working in conflict. So we've done a lot of work with groups in Myanmar, for example. and Ukraine, Israel, Palestine. My colleague has also done work with others.
Wow. Okay.
And a lot of that work is around how do we continue to do the work we do long term when we're actually in conflict or we're dealing with conflict situation.
Right.
And we talk a lot about trauma-informed practice. So what does it mean for our organization to be a trauma-informed organization? What does it mean for the work we do, for how we treat ourselves, how we treat each other? How can we do this important work of peace building or whatever it is, humanitarian development, whatever it is, in a place of conflict when that's also affecting us?
Right.
So that's another side of things that we also do.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very insightful, and especially for like I said, for somebody who is on the outside looking in, understanding what impact you have. It sounds so meaningful, not just from an organizational level, but for the individuals involved in that organization or in the team. I see how it would make a huge difference in their work lives or even personal lives as well. Now, you mentioned that you've worked with specific clients here in Thailand, dealing with local sensitivities and things like that. And also, you mentioned Myanmar and Israel and the Russia-Ukraine situation. So you've worked with a very diverse set of clients, even when it comes to their geography.
Yeah.
But having said that, what made you choose Bangkok and Thailand as your home base, if I may call it that? And does being here lend any advantages or disadvantages when it comes to the kind of work you do?
Yeah, so I have an over 30-year history with Thailand. So I was already here. So I would just continue to be here kind of
Makes
thing.
sense.
But yeah, and I think advantages, disadvantages, I mean, we work globally.
Right.
So there's a logistical advantage in that everything is accessible. It's very easy to get anywhere from Bangkok, more or less, as a hub and all of that sort of thing. There's also a lot of work. So we work with many different kinds of clients. Some are corporate, some are universities, some are government, some are NGOs or the development sector, some are healthcare or hospitals. I mean, so many different kinds of groups. And there's a lot going on in a lot of the areas that we really work in more specifically in this region.
Right.
There's a lot of development work going on. There's peace work going on. There's these sorts of things happening. A lot of people working to improve and change and grow many different kinds of things, many different aspects of society. So in that way, it's good to be close to that. But also because I have a long history here, so it's sort of, you could pick me up and put me in a different part of the world and I would know much less about that.
Understood. Yeah, so it's kind of a personal decision and a work decision to be here. So it's good to know, and I can't argue with the fact that this is a fantastic place to be, so makes sense. And I'm glad that you're doing it in Bangkok, and the fact that we got connected because you were here. Now, speaking of how we got connected, we can.
Yes.
So it's an initiative, and I'll let you maybe dive deeper into what it is and what you've been doing. But could you talk about how you came up with it and the support you're getting from the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and the impact that you've had with the cohorts that are you guys on? What cohort number are we on?
So it'll be 11-ish, something like that.
It's a lot of women-led businesses and women-led organizations. So if you could shed some light on that side of your work and just the impact that that has had, and it's something that we have had experience with firsthand. But if you could please do the talking for us.
Yeah, so WeCan is a peer and technical support program for women entrepreneurs in Thailand. And I didn't come up with it, actually.
Oh, wow.
So it started in about 2019, I believe it was. And Joni Simpson was the one who came up with it. She was in Bangkok at the time. She's been here for many years. She's now based in Sri Lanka.
I see.
And she's Canadian. And she had a lot of strong ties with the Canadian Chamber of Commerce. And the Canadian Chamber of Commerce has been doing several initiatives around women and women entrepreneurship and women leadership. And so they started this program because she and some others looked around and said, there's a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs and less for women entrepreneurs. So a lot of the opportunities that are out there for learning and connection and networking are, and at the time, were very, let's say, male-oriented. And less women-oriented, and they wanted to create a space for women to be able to do the same things and get similar benefits and to push their businesses forward. So we started We Can, and I was there from the beginning. And it's a cohort model. It has been a cohort model. So cohorts of women entrepreneurs come together and we do many different things. We set goals, we do work. And I think the most important thing is we support each other to do that, because being an entrepreneur, as you well know, is very lonely for everybody, and it doesn't have to be. There's also a technical part, so people learn stuff. They learn what they want to do, what they need to know to grow their business, whatever that means to them. And then we have gatherings and networking and opportunities for different kinds of things, and on and on. So we're currently reformulating We Can at the moment, and you well know that that's happening. So I'm not sure what We Can will be in the future. Still peer support, still some technical elements for sure. What would the actual structure look like? Will we maintain the cohort model? I'm not sure. But that's all right, because the community is alive and well, and that will continue to move forward.
Interesting, and happy to hear the history behind We Can, and just the people and organizations just supported it along the way. I'm curious to see how it unfolds and how We Can 2.0 turns out. But appreciate the work you're putting in, and it's like you said, even in a country like Thailand, where it is the level of equity here between men and women is still pretty high, especially considering that we're here in Asia. So even here, even for the Exponential show, or if I go to networking events, the number of women entrepreneurs I see is still very, very low. Is it because there are too few, or there are too few who are going out to events like these? I don't really know, but I'm glad that there are people like you and the team behind you, obviously, that deserves a lot of credit, who are working towards sort of bridging that gap, especially when it comes to peer support, because that is something that is severely missing, and something that we realized along the way. So now coming to your third role, which is being an author. So lost your bounds. So obviously you've talked about resilience earlier in the conversation. So can you tell us about what made you write this, and were there any personal lessons that you've put in here, and can you just walk us through, without obviously giving everything away so that people actually go and read this book, but could you just walk us through what made you write this and any key lessons that you can tease?
Yeah, sure. So I wrote that book because when I needed it, I couldn't find one. So I've been burnt out. Don't go there if you've never been. Please don't do that. And when I was going through that, I was trying to find resources to help myself because I didn't know what to do. And at the time, there was not a lot. I think there's more now, which is great. So I thought, at some point, I need to write this book because I couldn't find one when I wanted it, when I needed it, and let me see what I can do. So that's the book, and it's all from my personal experience, actually, and also things I've learned along the way, tricks and tips and perspectives that help me, practices that help me, and those sorts of things. It is not the 12-step plan for resilience. That doesn't exist, I'm sorry to say. We all have to figure it out, but hopefully it's a way, hopefully it has some pieces that can spark people's thoughts around their own resilience and what that looks like and how they can pursue that, how they can practice that. So I think a couple key lessons is that resilience is a practice. It's not an achievement. You can't say, it's not like, it's like fitness, right? I'm fit, I never have to do that again,
As of today, I am resilient.
That's it. Tomorrow, maybe not, who knows? There's something, it's about how we live our lives and how the things we do and the perspectives we hold to live our lives long-term, dealing with the things life throws at us, and also continuing to move forward. I think another one is that we think it's big things, but it's really not.
True.
It's just consistent small things.
True. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And where can people find this book if they?
So they can contact me if they want the, or Space Bangkok if they want the hard copy. And the soft copy is on Amazon, and it's also, there's an audiobook as well on Amazon as well.
Interesting. Okay. Yep. Pretty nice. So perfect. So my apologies, I haven't read it yet.
No worries.
But I will make sure to do that,
Yeah.
and I'm sure there's important stuff for me to learn as well.
Let me know.
I will.
Yeah, it's an easy read. I'll say that. It's very conversational. I didn't want to write a hard book that was hard to read.
Especially when it comes to somebody who's burnt out and then you give them 1,000
You
pages.
shouldn't be tired trying to read this book. That shouldn't happen at all.
That would be very counterintuitive. But yeah, it's glad to hear. Is there Lost Your Bounce Part 2 on the horizon, or anything else that you would like to tell us about what's next for Space Bangkok, for Weekend, for you as an author?
Yeah, so there's a couple, I have chapters in a couple different books that are coming out this year. And then there's a couple other books that I'm writing on, or working on, writing on now.
Nice.
Working on now, 2 different books at the moment. One's about facilitation, and one is about peace building and peace building theory.
Nice.
Diversity, why not? All the things in your brain. As far as Space Bangkok, so we are continuing our work with resilience and our resilience retreats. So we do have regular resilience retreats for anybody. So you don't have to wait for your organization to decide they want to do this. You could just go. So those are continuing. The next one will be in Phuket in October, November.
Right.
And then also continuing our work in trauma-informed practice and those sorts of things, and our work just helping people get unstuck and moving forward. So, yeah, it's lots of new things, of course, new things we're working on, but
I'm looking forward to all of them.
Expansion and continuation, I think, is what it is.
And and when it comes to entrepreneurship, a lot of emphasis is paid on, hey, what's new? Where are you expanding? But there's a lot of value to continuation, like you mentioned. There's like just continuing doing the same small things over and over again also means a lot for a business and makes a big difference for a business. So
sometimes growth means going deeper, not going bigger. So we have some of that too.
Absolutely, and that's a fascinating way to look at things. And Jenn, is there anything any message or lesson that you would like to leave our audience with at the end of this episode? Like your one mantra to being resilient or getting unstuck?
No pressure, right?
No, not at all.
I think what I think about a lot now, which is going to be a bit counterintuitive, because the world's falling apart, right? Again, still ongoing in many different ways, and I work with a lot of that and a lot of people who work with that very directly. Right. And at the same time, the thing that is holding it together and maybe holding us together,
right.
And it's not just me, there's many people talking about this, and true. I look at I think in times of, I don't know, crisis, or when you think, this is impossible, and then I look at what my mentors are doing,
right.
and they're doing the same thing, and they're all talking about hope. And I'm not talking about toxic hope, like, it's all gonna be fine, it's just fine. Right. Not that. What I mean is the belief, the unshakable belief that a better future is possible. Will it be easy? No. Is it gonna happen by itself? Probably not. Actually, definitely not.
Definitely not.
No. Is it possible? Yes. Should we work for it? Yeah. We have to envision what that looks like. True. And there are very wise people who have said things like, if you can't see it, you can't have it. If you can't name it, if you can't vision it, you can't have it. So there's a whole part that we miss when we get doom scrolling and lost in the craziness of what's happening in the world, which is a better future is possible. It's going to take a lot of work, and that's why we're here. Absolutely. Well, that's why I'm here. But so, and then the other part is, so one is that, and the other part is looking after yourself so you can do that. Nothing that we're talking about doing is a sprint. It's all an ongoing thing you do forever. You do your whole life. Right. You do over the long term. So we have to prepare for that. And I see a lot of people approaching their work and their life as a sprint.
Right.
And then they end up in trouble because you can't maintain that level.
Absolutely.
It's not a sprint.
No, and there's definitely only one finish line. So there's like
that's it. That's right. And so you keep going, right?
Yeah. So
you keep doing things.
True.
Who knows what it will be, and that's okay. So how do we look at it in that way, in the longer term?
Absolutely. I love the message, and I try to ascribe to these things in my personal life as well, but I'm sure there's a lot for me to learn as well. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share your journey, your work, and your thoughts with us today. Thank you, Jenn, and I hope to do this again with you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Perfect.
Anytime.
Likewise. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, and we'll see you in the next one.